In the eerie stillness of Louisiana's bayous, the bodies of 8 women, now known as the Jeff Davis 8, were discovered between 2005 and 2009, cast aside like forgotten wreckage into the murky waters of Jefferson Davis Parish. These women didn't just vanish. They were stalked, hunted, and killed in a way that suggested a deeper conspiracy than random killings. Their deaths were brutal, but the aftermath, the unanswered questions, the rumors of corruption, and a justice system that seems more interested in hiding the truth than uncovering it, was even more haunting. This is the story of the Jeff Davis 8, a tale twisted in the bayous of Louisiana where crime, drugs, betrayal, and darkness reign. The story began on May 20th, 2005, when a fisherman made a gruesome discovery, a body floating in the drainage canal of Jefferson Davis Parish. The woman was later identified as Loretta Chison Lewis, 28 years old, whose life had spiraled into a world of drug addiction and prostitution. Her death, while shocking, was only the first of many that would haunt the region. Over the next 4 years, 7 more women met the same fate, their bodies dumped in similar swampy areas, discarded like unwanted debris in the heart of Louisiana's wilderness. Ernestine Patterson, 30, was the next to be found, 2 months later, submerged in a canal. Her throat had been slashed. As authorities worked to find a link, more bodies surfaced. Kristen Lopez, a woman with intellectual disabilities, who was killed in 2007. Whitney I. Du Bois, only 26, who was found wrapped in a plastic sheet. And Brittany Gary, just 17, discovered in 2008, her body discarded like the others. The Jeff Davis 8 weren't just victims. They were living on the edges of society, trapped by a cycle of poverty, drugs, and crime. The eerie similarities in their deaths went beyond the manner of their murders. Each woman had ties to local law enforcement as informants, raising a deeply disturbing question. Were these women silenced for knowing too much? The Jeff Davis 8 were not faceless names. They were mothers, daughters, and sisters, each with their own story. They had lives shaped by the harsh realities of Jefferson Davis Parish, a community struggling with drug addiction, poverty, and crime. Loretta Chison, the first known victim, was trying to break free from addiction, but like so many of the others, she was caught in a web she could not escape. Kristen Lopez, a woman who had intellectual challenges, was drawn into the same dangerous world. She trusted people who led her down dark paths, but ultimately, she paid for that trust with her life. Brittany Gary was the youngest of the victims, a 17-year-old girl who was last seen alive walking along a rural road in Jennings before she vanished. Each woman had run-ins with law enforcement, often acting as informants to get lighter sentences, which only raised the question, did they die because they had become too involved in the criminal world, or did they know secrets they weren't supposed to? As the investigation progressed, a disturbing picture began to emerge. All of the victims were connected by more than just their deaths. They had been informants, providing the police with information on drug-related crimes in the area. But with their deaths, their silence suggested something even more sinister. What if these women had been killed to cover up a deeper corruption within the police force? Local rumors ran rampant. The parish had long been plagued by police corruption, and some believed that the very people sworn to protect the community were instead involved in the murders. In 2008, officials admitted that the investigations had been compromised. Certain police officers were revealed to have had ties to the victims, and several were involved in the same drug operations they were supposedly cracking down on. How deep did this corruption go? Was it possible that someone in law enforcement had orchestrated these murders to keep the truth hidden? Frankie Richard, a local man deeply involved in drugs and prostitution, emerged as a key suspect. He was known to have close relationships with some of the victims, but despite multiple interrogations and arrests, no charges stuck. Could he have been a convenient scapegoat in a much larger conspiracy? While Frankie Richard remained a key suspect, several other names floated around the investigations, but no one was ever convicted. Some believed the Jeff Davis 8 case was the work of a serial killer stalking vulnerable women. Others leaned toward a broader conspiracy theory, one that implicated not only law enforcement, but also local politicians and drug dealers, creating a tangled web of criminality and corruption. Could the murders have been orchestrated to silence the women who knew too much about the inner workings of the drug trade? Or was there an opportunistic predator taking advantage of the systemic corruption, knowing that law enforcement would be too compromised to catch them? The lack of clear evidence, combined with unreliable investigations, leaves only speculation and theories. But one thing is certain: the killer or killers has never been caught, and justice for these women seems to slip further away with each passing year. As time has passed, the Jeff Davis 8 case has remained open but cold. The FBI has since become involved, but with corruption scandals rocking local law enforcement, trust in the system remains low. Families of the victims have held vigils, pleading for answers that never come. Each year that goes by only deepens the mystery and entrenches the pain in the community. No one has ever been held accountable for these murders. For many in Jefferson Davis Parish, the fear lingers that those responsible are still walking free, protected by their connections, and able to continue their lives while the families of the victims remain in torment. Years have passed, and the mystery of the Jeff Davis 8 continues to fester, like an open wound in Jefferson Davis Parish. Were these women victims of a lone predator, or did they fall prey to a conclusion continued? Years have passed, and the mystery of the Jeff Davis 8 continues to fester, like an open wound in Jefferson Davis Parish. Were these women victims of a lone predator, or did they fall prey to a web of corruption so deep it reached into the very institutions designed to protect them? The story of the Jeff Davis 8 is not just one of murder, but of systemic failure. The justice system, entangled in corruption and compromise, has left these cases unsolved, and the truth remains elusive. The lingering darkness of this unsolved case casts a shadow not only over the families of the victims, but over the entire community. The haunting realization that the truth may never fully come to light adds to the pain and uncertainty surrounding these brutal murders. Until justice is served, the people of Jefferson Davis Parish will continue to live in fear, wondering if the killer or killers walk among them.